Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Reddit. Do you know the biggest challenge nowadays for American small businesses? There is visibility. That's why we partner with Reddit for Business. Reddit has more than 400 million weekly visitors. Furthermore, Reddit is reliable. Reddit is the number one source for real reviews on products, services, and brands. There is a promotion going on. When you spend $500, you'll get $500 in ad credit from Reddit. True story. I am a Reddit user. Anytime I need feedback or review for a product or service, I go to Reddit. I get the real answers, real feedback from real people, from Reddit communities. Scan this QR code and sign up for Reddit advertising for your business. Get the visibility for your company, your products, and services. Scan the QR code and sign up today. Thank you for your support. Hello, welcome to the American Business Podcast. This is Kevin D, your host. I'm welcoming you the American Business Podcast episode 87, and we are in season 3. The American Business Podcast is the voice of American business. And today's number, let's bring a more exciting number today with our guest. Today's number is 5.4 billion. There are 5.4 billion social media users in the world. Today we'll talk about social media, marketing, best practices on marketing, and other subjects that we can utilize as business people to expand and grow our businesses. Let's welcome our guest and let's get the conversation started. Hello, Madison. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being with us in your busy schedule. How are you? How is your week going so far?
I've had a great week. We closed 4 new clients this week. We closed 3 last week. So I am very happy today.
Well, congratulations. Then that's a great week. And today is Friday. Fridays are good days in general. We all feel good. And that's the time for us to wrap up the week pretty much. So that's a great day. And you share the good news from your point of view. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, why don't we get started if that's okay? So marketing and social media and business strategy is actually your expertise, and we have a lot to learn from you. As I mentioned in the beginning of our podcast, today's number is 5.4 billion, and that is the number of social media users in the world. So billions of people are using social media, and that's very important. And we'll talk about it in more detail with you today, and we'll learn from you. As a start, would you please introduce yourself and your organization to our audience and to our viewers, please?
Absolutely. My name is Madison Holloman. I'm the owner and founder of Mad Marketing House. We are an authentic social media marketing agency located in Augusta, Georgia, but we service clients all over the U.S. from New York, California, Miami, and we have a full team of creatives, and we work with very prestigious luxury brands to personal brands to smaller business. We literally do it all. And we probably spend close to 1,000 hours a week on the social media platform. So we know almost anything that you can when it comes to social media, just because of the amount of time and people that we are able to dedicate to these platforms.
Social media is very exciting as a subject, and now AI is coming in, which we'll discuss in a minute, and it makes it even more colorful and important for businesses, of course. Would you please tell us about your career path, how your career path has evolved and unfolded over the years?
Yep. So I started as in college. I started a screen printing business, and I sold and printed T-shirts to different schools and businesses, and I paid my way through college that way so that I could graduate debt free. While I did that, I also worked for my dad. He owns an international brand. They sell a $2 million product, which is a boat, and they service clientele that are billionaires, princes, celebrities. So I grew up in this household, this entrepreneurial household, witnessing him build this business for the past 25 years. So I worked underneath him and helped him with graphic design, and I self-taught website design. And while I was doing this and after I graduated, I started working for a plastic surgeon. I knew that my dad and I couldn't work together forever. We were way too much alike. And I took a job working for a very prestigious plastic surgeon in Augusta, Georgia, and worked for him for 2 years. And I always knew that I wanted to have an agency one day, but I really did not think I would own an agency at 24 years old. I thought, I need to wait till I'm a little bit older, till people can kind of take me serious. I'm only 29 still. I've had the agency for 5 years. And to this day, when I tell people how old I am, they're pretty shocked that I am as young as I am. But I think it comes with the maturity of being the oldest of 5 girls in this household, of where all of our conversation are surrounded by business. So I have always been obsessed with making money because it was such an easy way for you to put effort in something and get an immediate return, depending on how hard you worked on something or how smart you were able to be when you did something. So fast forward, we're 5 years in now of owning the agency, and we have a dream roster of clientele.
That's really exciting and inspirational, of course. Can you tell us your day-to-day work? What are the exciting and challenging parts of your work on daily basis?
So my days look completely different depending on the week. I am traveling every other week at this stage. We've been in this huge scale stage of the business, and I've basically been saying yes to everything. And what sets our agency apart is we travel to our clients and shoot content of them. So I have a full internal staff of photographers, videographers, editors, social media people. And how we have been able to be as successful as we are is we provide all that support internal. So usually we have a team boots on the ground somewhere shooting content for a client, and then we'll have a team internal here in Augusta, Georgia, working in office, supporting our local clients. And we do everything from shooting content, writing captions, doing outlines, writing emails, doing web design. We literally do it all. Every day is never the same. And you can ask anybody that works for me, they know, like, you may go into work one day thinking you're going to do one thing, and then at the end of the day, you're like, wow, we were just thrown all kinds of curveballs because we're in social media. This world is constantly changing and evolving. So you have to be quick on your feet.
Absolutely. And you work with different businesses, and that's a great opportunity to learn from them and learn about their goals, business goals, and their challenges at the same time. I'm sure that's also a great learning experience and opportunity in that sense.
It's fun to be able to come in and like provide a solution. Provide a solution for somebody that has a pain point, and be able to say, okay, if we can apply this strategy and tweak it each quarter, we're going to get you where you need to be business wise. Or maybe it's just awareness. Like maybe somebody's coming to us and saying, my competitor is doing X and it's driving me nuts, and I want to be better than them.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And from marketing point of view, when we think about ROI, eventually marketing is an investment that we position in certain ways to get certain outcome to increase sales as well as brand recognition. So from this point of view, what are the best marketing practices nowadays in terms of getting the ROI?
We pride ourselves on being authentic and vulnerable on social media. So being able to shoot content of people in their space with their team, their clients, their examples of their work, and just showing up like you would any day, and being able to do a mix of really polished, aesthetically pleasing content versus doing some UGC, which is user generated style content, whether you're shooting something yourself and clipping it together and putting text over B-roll or text over interview style type content. And we found that when you can show up on social media and be your true self and it not just be a highlight reel, people resonate with that and you build trust through that. And when you have trust, it fuels your sales. So we found there's a direct correlation between, and it's psychological as well. Like when you see something that resonates with you, you want to share that with somebody, or you want to send them a message and be like, oh my gosh, like your message really spoke to me. And then that person's on your radar. So you've already kind of broken down the barrier of building that trust with somebody through digitally.
Absolutely, yes. And that's a popular subject, of course, nowadays. And I like to get your take. How do you see the impact of AI on business nowadays?
I think AI can be really amazing, and I think it can also be very dangerous. So obviously on social media, we're constantly seeing videos and photos of things that are AI, and it's becoming a little bit more difficult to be able to determine the difference between AI and real life. As somebody that works in the field, I can immediately look at something and know that if it's real or not. I have more clients now that are coming to me and saying, hey, I want to use more AI content. And personally, I'd rather just make the content for them instead of having to deal with AI. But I think as long as we can, generate ideas, and our team uses it a lot for writing captions or outlines or kind of getting our creative juices flowing because we're working with so many people consistently every day. It's a great starting point to then take and put that human mind behind it and utilize it.
Actually, I have another podcast. I'm a co-host, and I have a colleague that we are running the podcast together. Two guys, all things tech, and we talk about AI all the time. And one of them is just like you mentioned, the impact of AI and how to regulate it. And to your point, may be very beneficial to the maximum level. At the same time, depends on how you use it. Then it may be also scary too. So that's an important point that you mentioned here. So it depends on how you utilize it.
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to running ads. Our team runs a lot of paid ads on Facebook and Instagram Meta. And we found I'm such a control freak when it comes to how my creative and my campaigns look. When you turn AI on, they immediately adjust how things look and they will change it. And especially when you're going through a process with the client where you're having everything approved down to the hashtags or the words used, when you turn that AI on, it completely adjusts all of it. So you have to be careful when and how you utilize it. And I think as long as we can continue to monitor it and control it as much as we can, it will obviously be to our benefit.
Yes. Well, I like to shift our conversation towards role models and mentors. Have you had any role models, any mentors who help shape your career path over the years?
Absolutely. I would definitely say growing up and witnessing my dad build a business, he was kind of always that figure to me. And to this day, I'll have something like a really big problem or something that I need to find a solution for. And I'll call him and ask him his advice, and he'll advise me on things. And usually he's literally been through all of it. And he can tell me, hey, you can make your own decision, but you probably need to do this to make sure that it works out better and you don't have to go through it the hard way like I did. But I would definitely say he's been a really big mentor and was obviously a role model for me as a little girl and her dad. I mean, we all look up to our dads. And I would definitely say when it comes to women that are successful, I think somebody that's done an amazing job is Sarah Blakely, as she's built Spanx. And, as somebody that was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, that's where she's headquartered and lives. And it was really cool to watch her build this insane, I'm wearing Spanx right now, this insane business and platform. And the way that she was able to exit her company and then also give back to all of the women that worked for her and men was just like so inspirational, I think, for every woman in business at the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if there is one key career lesson that you learned the hard way, what would it be that you can share with our audience and listeners?
Definitely process things and do not react. So, as a very young boss, there would be times where I would be triggered by things, whether it was a client or an employee, and I would immediately react, and usually negatively. And I found that if I can sit back and be calm and process what's happened and process my emotions and then respond, I'm more logical, I'm more professional, and it's definitely hurt me in the past by not living by that. But to this day, I always pause and reflect, and then I react. And usually have a better solution.
Absolutely. And that's also very inspiring. It is hard. It is hard. I mean, you really, they articulate very well for us to understand. I truly appreciate it. But at the same time, we all experience it in some form, right? And when
Yes.
we think about it, it's really hard to constrain yourself sometimes and then take a deep breath and just calm down and think through it, which is the best way. Absolutely, there is no doubt about it. And it also, brings my mind. So Lincoln used to write letters to his opponents, right? But he wasn't sending them. So he was just writing them and then
Yeah.
just get it off the chest, but just keeping the letters. So that always comes to my mind as a practice, just a way to constrain yourself, calm yourself down, get it off your chest in a way, but just keep it to yourself. So
Usually I call my husband and I'll be like, this is what's happened. And then he'll be like, Maddie, it's fine. You're just relax. It's not as bad as you think it is. And he's like kind of like my voice of, I say that he's my silent partner because he's not technically a partner in the business,
Makes
but
sense.
like I have to have him to be able to function to the level that we do. So
Yeah, that's lovely. I mean, that's great to have a soulmate and complete each other, right? So that's amazing. Well, so we have one question which has actually come to us from our audience. It happens to be an interesting question, and we get different answers. If you had a chance to go back history, historically or personally, to what time period would you like to go back and why?
I think I would probably like to go back to right after COVID or right around when COVID happened. I remember that time and I was working for somebody during 2020. And if I would have stepped out and started the agency 12 months before I did, I feel like I really could have capitalized. Because, after COVID happened, the economy erupted. There was all this money being flooded into the economy. And I feel like that's why our business grew so fast, because starting on the back half of 2021, when everybody was like done with COVID and there was all this funding, all these business owners were spending money. So if I could go back and start the agency even 6 months or 9 months sooner, I wish I would have, because it would have just continued to catapult us into a bigger growth mode for sure.
So as a business owner, you've been through certain experiences to grow your business, to run your business, and to further it. So in times of challenges, how to stay motivated and inspired?
So usually I try to read as many books as I can. Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory book is like an iconic book. And just when she's talking about the things that she went through in her life before she got to the stage where she's like, just let them. And I feel like when I can dig into books or podcasts, or I can just get on social and my algorithm just feeds me entrepreneurial content of like, basically, don't sit there and cry, like get back up and figure it out. Cause we're all built differently. Entrepreneurs are built different. And I think if you can just quiet your mind and be able to feed it with a podcast or a book or an inspirational page, that will really kind of completely shift my mood and my thought process and kind of get me back on track mentally.
And in terms of social media, how do you use social media? And over the years, how social media help you grow your business?
So we use obviously all the major platforms, Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn, Google, YouTube. And when we started the agency in 2021, we doubled our business every year for the first 3 years. Like, money was cheap. It was easy to grow and scale. It was all natural referral. Year 4 really kicked us on our back. We literally, one day I received a phone call and was told that 60 to 70% of my recurring revenue was going out the door. They were taking it internal, and they were actually hiring an employee that I had passed, that I had trained. And this was a couple weeks before I was having my third baby. So in that moment, I really didn't know how I was going to turn the business around that fast. At the time, I had a really large staff. I think I had 8 to 9 people on staff at that time. And once I got back after I had the baby about 2 weeks later and really thought, okay, what am I going to do to turn this business around? I was like, and it was actually something my dad said to me. He's like, Madison, you own a social media agency. Like, just apply all the things you're doing for these other people to your business. And that's literally what we did. We just started posting consistently every day. We found out what our 3 avatars and 3 different audiences were, and we created content that spoke to them directly every day. We cold messaged them on Instagram and said, hey, your page needs help. We have a solution for you. I would get on these calls with people and I would just give them a strategy for free, because I knew that if they saw my strategy, and they would sign, and they basically did. And then we started running ads, we started boosting, and we just started doing all the things that I was preaching to everybody else. And it was like, quickly 12 months later, I look back and we had tripled the business by just applying the social media strategies that we're doing for everybody else.
That's really exciting. Also very inspiring. Do you have any career advice for the next generation professionals, especially those who are thinking about coming into your industry, marketing, social media management?
Get all the experience that you can get. Like, go get as many internships as you can. I think I had 3 or 4 internships. Most of them are free. We have an amazing internship program, but I do pay my interns because they work pretty hard. Get the experience. Go work for a startup, because if you can go get plugged in at a startup and you're with them while they're scaling and growing, you're going to be at the top with them as they become successful. And if they fail, so what? You have all that experience of a startup, because what happens in a startup is you're literally just doing anything and everything you can to grow and scale the business. So there's all kinds of opportunity to just plug yourself in and learn. And the more you know, and the more that you're able to apply and do for somebody else or somebody else's business or even your own, the more success and the faster you are going to be more successful.
For those who like to be in touch with you, what are and also, of course, to learn more about your company and organization, what are the best ways to be in touch with you and your organization?
Follow us on Instagram, Mad Marketing House.
Well, thank you so much, Madison, for being with us in your busy schedule. It was actually a very inspirational conversation, interview, I must say. Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you for sharing your professional wisdom and insight with us in this episode of the American Business Podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, and I wish you and your family a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you very much. Well, to our audience and to our listeners, thank you very much for listening today. Thank you very much for watching. We had another informative and inspirational The American Business Podcast episode. I hope you learned something that you can practice and implement in your business. It was actually very educational today, especially talk about social media management, and the impact of social media coupled with AI. That was actually important point we all keep in mind in terms of practicing it in our business on daily basis, as well as understanding the change business, because social media is not new, has been around for years. However, nowadays, because of the AI, now it's shaping and it's evolving to a different level that all businesses in different sizes can utilize. So in that sense, it was actually a great episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I liked it very much. Would you like to be a guest in the American Business Podcast? You can send us an email americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. We also welcome advertisers and companies who like to sponsor to promote their products and services. You can also send us an email for advertising and sponsorship inquiries, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. As you know, a couple of months ago, we got the YouTube Silver Award. The American Business Podcast is a growing business podcast that comes to you on a weekly basis. And thank you for your support. Without you, that wouldn't be happening. And if you haven't done so, please go to our YouTube channel. This is our QR code right here. If you scan this, it'll take you to our YouTube channel right away. And please subscribe. And if you feel more generous, please share your thoughts and your comments in the comment chat box in YouTube. We'll appreciate your interaction, and we'll appreciate you sharing your insights and your feedback in our YouTube channel as well. We also like to welcome you to our website, americanpodcast.tv. You can learn more about our podcast on the website. Also, we share and publish the schedule for the American Business Podcast. You can see our coming episodes. Also, you'll be able to see the subjects that we will be covering. In that sense, it's up to date, and you'll be also able to learn more about our activities as well as the American Business Podcast in general. Great. What else is happening? Let's talk about our sponsors. Ms. Excel.
Support for the show comes from
Yelp. You know, I've been talking to more than 100 business owners in the American Business Podcast. Do you know the biggest problem for small businesses nowadays? It is visibility. That is why you should sign up and list your business on Yelp for Business. I have the QR code on the screen, and when you scan the QR code, the form will show up on your screen and you can sign up on the registration form. It comes with free trial with no obligation. Make it easy for your customers to find you. Do you know there are more than 70 million customers visiting Yelp website looking for services from businesses just like yours, restaurants, home services, professional services, and many other businesses are being searched on Yelp on daily basis. That's a great opportunity. If you list your business on Yelp, you'll be findable, searchable, and you'll be visible. When you are visible, then your customers are able to find you. You're in business. You can get opportunities, you can get leads, you can build a healthy and profitable pipeline. Consider Yelp for Business. Scan the QR code, sign up, and start your free trial. It comes with free trial. Very comfortable, no obligation. List your business and start getting the results and enjoy the benefits of Yelp Business. Thank you for your support. Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Reddit. Do you know the biggest challenge nowadays for American small businesses? That is visibility. That's why we partner with Reddit for Business. Reddit has more than 400 million weekly visitors. Furthermore, Reddit is reliable. Reddit is the #1 source for real reviews on products, services, and brands. There is a promotion going on. When you spend $500, you'll get $500 in ad credit from Reddit. True story. I am a Reddit user. Anytime I need feedback or review for a product or service, I go to Reddit. I get the real answers, real feedback from real people, from Reddit communities. Scan this QR code and sign up for Reddit advertising for your business. Get the visibility for your company, your products and services. Scan the QR code and sign up today. Thank you for your support. Welcome to the American Business Podcast. I'm Kevin D, your host. I'm welcoming you episode 96 in the American Business Podcast. American Business Podcast is the voice of American business in any size and from any industry. And today's number is 2 million. More than 2 million people, New Yorkers, cast ballots during the mayoral election in New York City. As you know, we put together monthly online networking event. We call this Connectional America online networking event. Every month, we invite business professionals, and these business professionals join the Connectional America online networking event, streamed live on the American Business Podcast. They connect with each other. They introduce themselves, their company, and their products and services. That's a great opportunity to promote your business. I have the QR code on the screen. We have limited seating for the Connectional America Business Alliance online networking event. You'll be networking with other business professionals. At the same time, you'll be on the American Business Podcast. You'll be in front of thousands of the American Business Podcast subscribers, viewers, and followers. So that's a great opportunity for you to promote your business. I have the QR code on the screen. We have limited seating. Today is a great day to get started and register for this event. You can scan the QR code, you can register, and I hope you join us. That's a great opportunity for you to promote your business, your products and services. All right, let's get it. I'm going to invite our guest to our virtual stage, and we can get the conversation started on November 7, 2025, today, Friday. Hello, Nick. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you very much for being with us in your busy schedule. Happy Friday. How is your week so far?
Do you know what? I'm just still recovering a bit. Last week, I was in Las Vegas for a conference. So as I'm sure many of your listeners would know, it's always a little bit hectic coming back from a week away at a conference and trying to catch up on all the things. And of course, it corresponded with the end of the month. So it's payroll and invoicing and all the sorts of kind of business stuff that you got to take care of. So it's been a busy week, and I'm looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, yes, especially going to Vegas is a long way, and it's pretty busy. You go there, you get settled, you go to the conference, you make networking, right? So it's quite a work. So welcome back home, and I'm glad you join us today. And we are looking forward to learning about you, your business today. As you know, the American Business Podcast is an informative business podcast, and in each the American Business Podcast episode, we learn from experts, business professionals, business leaders like yourself. So I've been looking forward to this conversation. Let's get started. As a start, would you please introduce yourself and your company briefly to our audience and to our listeners?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Nicholas Hayduk. I am the president of Engineered Code Consulting, Inc., based here in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. We are a Microsoft Power Platform consulting firm. And we've recently kind of moved into the product space as well, having built a learning management system for the Power Platform as well. So we do consulting, and we have a product that we offer as well.
Can you tell me about your career path, and especially for our audience to listen and learn from you? How did you get started? How your career path has shaped over the years?
Yeah, I would say a lot. The key word is luck. A lot of luck going on. So I went to school on the other side of the country, near Toronto, and I was deciding, hey, should I stay out here? There were opportunities to work at kind of some well-known tech firms out there, or should I kind of move back closer to home? And eventually, I decided the decision, hey, family's important. I want to move back closer to home. So when I started looking for a job, my cousins just happened to work at a company that did tech stuff. I have a computer engineering degree, and I had cousins that said, hey, we work at a place where we write software. Come work with us. And I thought, hey, that'd be fun. I mean, I like my cousins. Why don't I go work with them? And it turned out to be a very good choice because the company, even though I really didn't know anything about them, the company was only a few years away from being acquired by Microsoft. So that company, when I started building basically a content management system, a way to build websites using the Microsoft, what's now known as Power Platform, back then Dynamics CRM. So I ended up working there for a couple of years, ended up kind of starting my first kind of business together with someone else. But that kind of ecosystem kept kind of dragging me back in. There was always work to do on the side, evenings and weekends, that sort of stuff, until enough of that work kind of appeared that I ended up founding Engineered Code in 2014. So ended up, again, the choice was to work with my cousins, and it turned into an option to start my own company.
How about your day-to-day work? What are the exciting and challenging parts of your work on daily basis?
Man, I mean, these days I don't do as much of the technical stuff, and it's more about the people stuff. It is, making sure that the team that I have is, going, everyone's going in the right direction, making sure that not only the technology is kind of going right, but making sure everyone's kind of working together. I'm still kind of the leader on most of our projects, so trying to balance all the various projects that we have, and just kind of working with the people. Like, it's a lot more people and a lot less tech than it used to be, for sure.
What type of companies you are working with?
Pretty much all of them, in terms of, we work with small companies, big companies, private sector, public sector, a lot of government. When we got started, there was a lot in kind of the healthcare industry. But honestly, we build websites, we build, software for businesses, and, every type of business is an option, for sure.
Let's talk about AI a little bit. How do you see the impact of AI on business based on your professional insights and observation?
Yeah, so there's kind of two sides for it for a business like ours. There's like, how is AI helping our customers? But then how is AI, if you listen to the kind of the doom and gloomers, how is AI going to put me out of business because AI can just write all the code for you now? And to be honest, I'm not too afraid that AI is going to put me out of business anytime soon. I think AI is an excellent tool, and it's something that we are embracing and using. But I think we're a long ways away from not needing, smart people who can talk with customers and help them understand the technology, where just your average customer is going to be able to go and talk to a co-pilot and kind of answer all their questions. I think we're a long ways away from that. So certainly we're seeing a lot more in the last couple of years, the AI stuff certainly picking up and certainly embracing it to help us kind of do better at our jobs. But as an example, a couple of months ago, I had an employee kind of reach out and say, "Hey, should we have a policy specific to AI?" And to me, again, I see AI as a tool, no different than like a calculator or anything else. You have to use the tool smart, but you can't just plug stuff into AI and just trust the results. In the same way that you put something into a calculator, it still has to pass that sanity check of like, okay, put the numbers in. Is that the right number? Does that make sense? And so it certainly can speed up the work that we can do, but it's not putting us out of work anytime soon, as far as I think.
Yes, you're right. I mean, that's what I've been seeing too in the market. So there are like two camps. So one is the way that you mentioned. So they see the AI as a tool, and they like to use it as a tool to better their businesses and operations. And the other camp is coming, taking away all the businesses, all the positions coming in, and it's going to be worse. So which one is going to be, we'll see. But that these two conversations coming from these two camps, views of point of views, that's what I've been seeing as well in these interviews, as well as in the market in general. So that remains to be seen, especially those recent layoffs from Amazon and other technical and software and technology companies triggered these even further recently. That's what we are seeing in media and in conversations in general. But then the real impact of AI, of course, coming in, and we'll see more. That's how it looks. For your business, what type of marketing activities do you typically employ and perform in the markets that you are active in?
Yeah, so I would say, again, we kind of have two sides to our business. So we've got our consulting business, where historically, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I said, "Oh, I don't do marketing." But the reality was I was doing marketing. I didn't really realize I was doing marketing. So many years ago, I decided to kind of take on the challenge of becoming a Microsoft MVP. So the Microsoft MVP program is kind of something that Microsoft gives out to people who are involved in the community, whether that's speaking at conferences, doing blog posts, answering forum questions, all these things. And it kind of gets us, we get to go to a conference where they kind of tell us all the secrets. We get to, see things before they're out to the public. And there's just kind of all benefits of being in this particular community. So in order to do that, I did things like I did videos, I did blog posts, again, with the goal of becoming one of these Microsoft MVPs. But it turned out putting out all that content was the best marketing that I could ever imagine. Because once we put out, hey, here's all these, here's all this content related to the product that I specialize in, it's never really enough. You can never put out too much content, and people are always going to have more questions. And when they've kind of reached the end of the content, well, what are they going to do? They're going to reach out to the person who produced that content and said, hey, can we give you some money to take us to the next step? So from the side of our consulting businesses, it's always just been through kind of word of mouth and producing this content and having people say, okay, your blog post was great. It got me 30% of the way there. I have another 70% I need it done next week. Can you help? On the EC Learn. So EC Learn is our learning management product that we built for the Power Platform. That one's very different because it's not something that people are necessarily actively going out for. In the Microsoft ecosystem, it's very partner based. So it's about going out and educating the partners because, end clients generally aren't going out looking for things themselves. What they're doing is they're reaching out to the partner that they're working with to say, hey, I have this challenge. Can you help me solve this? So there is a lot of work kind of reaching out to partners, engaging with partners. And then, last week I was in Vegas for that conference. So it's, the conferences are still a big deal in the Microsoft ecosystem. So going out to conferences, getting on the floor, meeting with people is a great way. But again, just kind of those connections I have in the Microsoft ecosystem to get the word out there about our products. So certainly the two different sides of the business kind of take two different approaches.
Have you had any role models, any mentors in your career journey?
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of people over the years, where in areas that are not necessarily my area of expertise. So I am not, I'm not much of a salesperson. I'm not much of a, I like to think I tell it as it is, but sometimes, sometimes I could. Maybe the people don't love my opinion as much as I like to think that, right? So I've worked with some really good people over the years that were more on the sales side, helped me refine my ability to say, okay, I'm thinking this. How do I say this in a different way that doesn't make me come off like a jerk, right? So helping me develop some of those kind of soft skills. I've had a couple people that I've worked with over the years that have been kind of instrumental in helping me with some of the sales and the people skills that as a young techie I probably didn't have.
If there is one key career lesson that you learned the hard way, what would it be that you can share with our audience?
Yeah, and it's something I still see. We work with a lot of kind of independent consultants, and it's really I'm a perfectionist. That's kind of how I got to be where I am. And you really have to learn to let that go if you want to expand your business. It's not even about meeting. It's not about being perfect. It's not about doing everything the way that I would have it done. It's about, is it a good way to do it? May not be the way I would have done it, but is it still good? So it's about letting go of that perfectionism. I know that's, for me, still always a struggle. But I know that it's allowed me to grow from a team of myself to a team of 10, 12 people. It's just not possible if you kind of hold. I don't want to say hold people to my standards, because it's not that the other people are doing it worse. It's just different, right? And so you just can't have it always. It's not always has to be done your way. So I think learning to understand that there's lots of good ways of doing things, and other people have that's been something that's allowed me to kind of grow the business beyond just myself.
Is there a book, a movie, a show that helped shape your career perspective over the years?
Yeah, I would say that the big thing that I'm really kind of working with customers on when we kind of think about, hey, here's a new project, what's it going to cost? So the idea of the minimum viable product, which I think that's the Lean Startup, I think was the book where I first kind of learned about that. And so the idea of the minimum viable product, what's the least thing we can do that's going to provide some value? I think that's been really key, because I think most organizations want to kind of have a big bang. Here's everything we could possibly do. And a perfect example is our learning management system. Do we have every feature that an LMS that's been out for 20 years has? We absolutely don't. But do we have something that does provide value? The sooner you can get that out into the market, the better. Because as much as we like to think we can sit around a table and imagine what people want, you don't really know what people want until you get it out there and have real people giving you feedback on, hey, here's the product. This is what we need. So I would say that kind of the idea, the concept of the minimum viable product is something we use on consulting projects, products, all these sorts of things. So I think that's been a key to really helping organizations move forward and not kind of stall and say, okay, well, there's this big thing we need to do and it's just kind of too big, and it can kind of make you freeze and not continue. So minimum viable product for sure.
What is your biggest passion and interest outside of work?
So sports. I'm a big sports guy. I'm a big baseball guy. I don't want to talk about the World Series and what happened. We can just ignore what happened in Game 7 there.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're a Yankee fan in New York, but I'm sure you'd want to ignore that.
Well,
as well.
I'm Mets.
Oh, you're okay. Yes. Your Mets are even worse. Yeah. No. Yeah, I'm on. Yeah.
Yeah, the Mets is like 10 minutes away from where I live, so it's just convenient. So that's how I became a Mets fan years ago. So I sometimes go to games when I have a chance. But Mets. Since you ask, I had to say it.
Yeah. No, we're massive Blue Jays fans in our house. I was lucky enough to go to Game 3 of the World Series, and so it was pretty heartbreaking the way that all ended up. So sports in general, specifically golf. I'm a big golfer. I play a lot of golf. I watch a lot of golf. So sports and golf are my that's what I do in my spare time.
Does golfing help in any way for business connections and business networking, you will say?
For sure, there's been some opportunities. I would say, like for me specifically, in my, I live in a relatively small town, 300,000 people, and so most of our customers are outside. But I know a ton of people who are, say, members at the club where I am, and that's they meet people all the time there. For me specifically, certainly it's led to some opportunities, but I'm mostly there for the golf. But yeah.
How to stay motivated and inspired in times of challenges and hardship at work?
Yeah, motivation is a tough thing, and I know that I've struggled with that, where you're kind of at a point where it's like, hey, this is good, and I've been in interviews with people trying to decide if I want to hire them, and they're like, well, what's your goal for the company? And my goal was never to have, I don't need $1 billion, I don't need 100,000 employees. So it's like, well, what is my motivation? And so my motivation is really about the people that I have, the clients that I have, and continuing to service them. So that's really what it comes down to is, I've been lucky enough to work in, tech for the last, 15, 20 years. And I like to think we do a good job with the tech, but really I'm just more of a people pleaser, really want to help these people out. And tech just happens to be the tool that I can use to solve their challenges. So just, it goes back to the people, right? So it would be, that's what kind of gets me up in the morning, is knowing that those challenges are never going to go away. Those people are never going to go away. And so we need to make sure that we're not only the customers, but the employees, kind of all these people that, rely on the work that we do.
Do you have any career advice for the next generation business professionals who are entering into the job market?
Again, I would say I was very lucky. At no point did I have to say, okay, I'm going to eat, ramen noodles for the next 2 years in order to start my business. That was never a choice that I had to make. And the reason for that, I was fortunate to work in places where I could do essentially a side gig. So I think if you're somewhat risk averse, like I wouldn't have told my wife, hey, by the way, let's downsize and let's launch a business. It was more kind of kind of lucky in that way. So I would say the opportunities to work on the side, make sure you're working in an organization where you have you can do those opportunities to see kind of what other ways that you can provide value. So now we're kind of living in this gig economy where there's all these different options. Probably not Amazon drop shipping, probably not the side gig for most people, but come up with a way that you can find something you're passionate about and see if you can turn that into a business after hours while still working your regular gig.
For those who like to continue this conversation with you, would you like to share any website or any contact information for our audience to learn about your company and or be in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah. So you can reach out to us. You can get us at engineeredcode.com. eclearn.app is where you can find our learning management system, or hit me up on LinkedIn. You can find me, just Nicholas Hayduk, PNG is the title that you'll find there. And connect with me. I accept pretty much every request. Maybe mention that where you saw me on this podcast, and happy to have a conversation there.
Nick Hayduk, thank you so much for being with us in your busy schedule. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you very much, and I wish you a great weekend.
You as well.
Thank you very much. Well, to our audience and to our listeners, I hope you like today's episode. As I always say, we always invite business leaders and executives, and we always learn something, at least one thing, from the American Business Podcast episode. So we are very lucky. We are very blessed to have business
Support for the American Business Podcast comes from Reddit.
Do you know the biggest challenge nowadays for American small businesses? That is visibility. That's why we partner with Reddit for Business. Reddit has more than 400 million weekly visitors. Furthermore, Reddit is reliable. Reddit is the number one source for real reviews on products, services, and brands. There is a promotion going on. When you spend $500, you'll get $500 in ad credit from Reddit. True story. I am a Reddit user. Anytime I need feedback or review for a product or service, I go to Reddit. I get the real answers, real feedback from real people, from Reddit communities. Scan this QR code and sign up for Reddit advertising for your business. Get the visibility for your company, your products and services. Scan the QR code and sign up today. Thank you for your support. Welcome to the American Business Podcast. I'm Kevin D, your host. I'm welcoming you to episode 108. Today is December 5th, 2025. And today we are streaming from Houston, Texas, the energy capital of the nation. And today's number is 200 billion. This is the expected ERP software market size globally by 2033. And for your information, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. That's the business software system, a platform that companies are using to streamline their operations. Speaking of ERP and business software, we have a great guest today. I'm going to invite our guest to our virtual stage, and I'll get the conversation started. I'm very excited. Let's do this, and let's get started. All right, great. Welcome, Greg. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kevin. Good to be here.
Thank you very much. Happy Friday. I hope you are having a nice week. How is your week going so far?
It's been a busy week. I don't know about you. Once a year, we have a all hands company calls for 3 days straight here at Cherry Beckert. So 4.5 hours of all 3,000 of us on a webinar for 4.5 hours, 3 days. It's a lot of content, but we just wrapped that up.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you are with us today. I'm very excited to talk about ERP industry and business software. You have decades of experience, and we have a lot to learn from you today and learn from your professional insights. As a start, would you please introduce yourself and your organization to our viewers and to our listeners?
Absolutely. So my name's Greg Kopp, and I lead the Microsoft Business Central practice here at Cherry Beckert. Our brand is Archer Point by Cherry Beckert, and we are the largest by headcount Business Central partner in North America. And then Business Central, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is one of Microsoft's ERP products. And so Microsoft is the largest actually in the mid-market ERP space, even though most people don't know it because they don't market it separately. But Microsoft in the early 2000s had acquired Navision, Exapta, Great Plains, and Solomon. And so Business Central is the kind of the future forward for what was originally the Navision product line. It's also now the product direction for where anyone running Great Plains is headed. So, and then it's kind of exciting. So NetSuite, which is a major competitor in the mid-market space, Business Central has more clients in the cloud than NetSuite does in the cloud. And they had a significant head start going all the way back to the NetLedger days. So I think Microsoft is now, well over 40,000, I think in the 45 to 50,000 range of clients in the cloud on Business Central SaaS. So.
Yeah, these are important numbers and shows the size and depth of Microsoft Business Central. Thank you for sharing this with us. Would you please tell us about your career journey a little bit? How did you get started? How your career journey has unfolded over the years?
Well, I started out my career in public accounting with Arthur Andersen, and I'm sure there are fewer and fewer people graduating with accounting degrees today who even know who Arthur Andersen was. Although when I graduated, it was the Big Six, and that was a great job to land. So I never thought I'd find my way back to public accounting. I had, done my obligatory tour in public accounting, moved on to finance roles at clients, and then eventually decided to switch careers and move into ERP software implementation. So I've been doing that since the late 90s. And, the company I helped found in 2002, Archer Point, we were focused on Navision, now Business Central, grew that business to 175 people spread across US, Canada, India, and Mexico. And then last year, we had also turned ourselves into employee-owned. So we were 100% ESOP, and then we sold to Cherry Beckert in October of last year. So now we are Archer Point by Cherry Beckert.
When you think about your day-to-day work, what are the exciting and challenging parts of your work on a daily basis?
Well, I'd say this year has been particularly challenging because one of my key leaders has been out on medical leave since late June. So obviously our expectation is that person is coming back. So it's harder in some ways than when somebody leaves, because then obviously, as tough as that may be, you get to work on replacing that person. Well, since our hope has been all along that this person is coming back, well, what I've done is my best job to try to keep the seat warm while that person's out doing both my job and that person's. So I'd say the last 6 months have been particularly challenging because I would say it's how do you do two people's jobs when you don't have any more time in the day? And I would argue you do neither job extremely well, but it's been in some ways liberating because it allows you to figure out what's really important. So my strategic directive here this last 6 months has been, I'm going to do some things strategically poorly to figure out how important they actually are. And then if too many people complain that I'm doing a terrible job, well, that must be important. And then my goal has been, how do I how do I automate it? How do I improve it? And oftentimes what I find is there's tremendous opportunity for process improvement. And that's been part of my journey the last 6 months. So I would almost argue I kind of like this idea in the future. How do I put some pressure on the system that kind of forces us to re-examine how we do certain things? And having somebody out obviously puts pressure on the system. So you figure out what's truly important.
How do you see the state of ERP industry? So I mentioned earlier in the podcast, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. But if you like to, expand on it, you are more than welcome.
Yeah.
And if you can also tell us about the industry, how the ERP software industry is doing in general, any challenges, any updates that you can share with our viewers and listeners.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a weird time with the rise of AI. No one is exactly sure what this all is going to look like. So I'd say one of the big question marks is, what does ERP look like going forward as we integrate more and more AI into the mix? There are some pundits that say ERP is going to go away, everything's going to be agentic AI. I would tell you, I've thought a lot about that, and I don't see that happening. That feels more like marketing hype than reality. But I do think one of the things we're seeing with ERP is more and more automation, more and more leveraging of agentic AI, whether that's true agentic AI solutions or just leveraging AI productivity tools. But I would say over the course of the next probably 12 to 24 months, we're going to see kind of how much of this current AI hype becomes reality. And I would argue, the big question that my own staff and I have clients asking is, does this mean people's jobs are going away? But what I've seen so far in the ways we forget the marketing hype, but how can we use AI today?
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen is it's an incredible productivity enhancer. It improves output, and we can use it to improve quality. I haven't seen yet that it actually helps or that it would eliminate jobs. Because think about, we said the same thing of email. That was going to eliminate all kinds of jobs. Well, what we ended up with, I don't know about your inbox, Kevin,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm buried. So, these things which were going to eliminate our jobs only seem to make life in some ways harder and more complicated. The volume of information we have to consume. I don't think AI is going to be any different. The amount of AI slop we see getting produced is incredible. In fact, my big argument with a lot of people I talk to, like, oh yeah, I'm using AI to summarize every meeting and do my to-dos. And, now I see fewer and fewer people actually show up live to meetings, because why do I need to show up live? AI is going to do everything for me. I'm like, how often do people actually go back and read those summaries, read the transcripts, do anything with all this AI generated stuff? I don't think a lot, but yet we're getting inundated with more and more information. So I don't know. I think we got a lot of opportunity ahead of us. I don't think anybody's job is going to get eliminated anytime soon.
Well, yes, I love the way you look at it and explain, especially with the meeting notes. This is pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, we get all these notes. Like, how often people really go back and read it
Yeah.
is
Well,
a good
and
question mark.
the
It's
thing that
good
cracks me
archiving
up
for
too
sure.
is
Yes.
I feel like any meeting that I don't need to show up to, that I'm relying on AI to generate the notes, the summaries to do, I probably shouldn't have been invited to that meeting, because what that means is I have nothing to contribute. So, my big push is, okay, wait a minute. Any meeting you don't feel like you should show up to or don't need to show up to, get it off your calendar. It's a waste of your time. But I think a lot of what we're getting with AI right now is, I'd call it accelerated FOMO. So, it only allows us to buy into our fear of missing out at scale.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to have all kinds of things I need to go back and review, which I I wasn't going to show up and contribute in the first place. So probably shouldn't have shown up. But yeah, I don't think anybody's job's going away anytime soon.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, yes. How do you see the adaptation of AI in the market in general, especially in small and mid-sized business market, based on your observation?
So I've been talking a lot with our clients as well as IT business leaders, and I'd say that if I'm talking to peers who are also working in IT, it's a different conversation than when I'm talking to clients. So first, if I kind of take the conversations I have with leaders at firms like ours, it's constantly, oh yeah, we need to figure out this agentic AI stuff. We need to hire people who know AI. But my question for them has been, to do what exactly? And the answer I get back pretty consistently is, well, AI stuff. I'm like, okay, it kind of sounds like we want to hire somebody that knows how to use a hammer. And then when we get them on board, they're going to say, hey, what do you want us to hammer? And we're going to I don't know, just start hammering. So I feel like, as I'm talking to other IT leaders, we're skipping ahead to agentic AI when we're barely AI literate. So the conversations I've been having a lot is how do we get literacy before agency? And then that also is translated into conversations I've had with clients, because repeatedly the conversations I have is, I'm using AI personally. I use it to help my kids with homework. I use it to do meal prep. Okay, I use it to do travel planning or vacation planning. I'm like, okay, but how are you using it in your business? Well, other than email summaries or helping me with a presentation or respond to an RFP, there's not a lot of what I'd call transformational usage of AI. So then the other thing I've been trying to talk with clients about is, okay, how do I help you build literacy before agency? The problem right now is everybody's out looking for problems that require an AI solution. What I've seen so far is there's almost no problem I have that actually requires an AI solution. However, AI has been incredibly helpful in helping me figure out a solution, which is often other existing technology that I just didn't think to deploy or implement, or it's a simple process change. So that's been the key in coming back to clients and going, okay, let's build literacy before we try to go find agentic solutions. And then let's start small with personal challenges. And by personal, I still mean within an organizational context. So what are things that frustrate you today? They're manual. They could be done better, but you haven't bothered to try to improve it. So let's start with that before we try to go solve big organizational issues, which typically involve more stakeholders, get complicated. So that's been my big push with clients. Literacy before agency. Let's start with personal transformation before organizational. And then repeatedly, I get the ahas. Oh, yeah. There's this thing I do where I copy data from one place to another, or I manually enter data from one spreadsheet to another. Yes, let's go figure out how we use LLMs, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or Copilot, to help you think about your problem, help you think about solutions. And then I'm going to probably guarantee you it's not going to be an agent. It's going to be something in Power Automate, or it's going to be a dynamic intake form, or something simple that you could actually go build yourself.
Well, maybe we can dive a little deeper on these, especially in terms of deploying business software systems, ERPs and other systems, for example. Based on your experience, because you have decades of experience, what is the best way for companies to figure out their need professionally or organizationally, I must say, and how they should start transforming their operations and businesses by utilizing business software systems?
Yeah, I'd say for every company, there's got to be something compelling, because no one chooses to implement ERP software because they're bored or they have extra time on their hands. Implementing business systems is complicated. It takes time, and it's often more money than anyone wants to spend. So the things that I find typically compel people to make a shift are they're growing, and their current systems or processes are limiting their ability to grow. And typically the easy way to identify that is they're adding headcount as quickly as they're growing their top line. Well, typically, and obviously we know if the processes are manual, if it requires headcount that scales, as kind of in proportion with your revenue, well, at some point your processes start to fall apart because the processes just can't handle the volume or the scale or the communication complexity. So that's typically where companies will come talk to us. They've outgrown QuickBooks. They've outgrown Excel spreadsheets. They just can't scale. So there's that. And then I'd say the other thing we find a lot of is there are a lot of cloud-based platforms out there who shall remain nameless, but you can guess who they are, where the publisher will try to kind of get people in with a super low price on an initial subscription, and then they'll jack up the price on renewal. Thankfully, Microsoft doesn't do that. But that's another place where we find people compelled to move because, what they had budgeted for their business systems made sense with the initial discount they got. And then when they get hit with egregious price increases on renewal, they just realize that the business can't sustain this increased cost. So thankfully, that's why we continue to work with Microsoft, because they don't do that. They're in it for the long game. They're never, kind of doing these bait and switch things that we see a lot of other companies do.
When you look at the small and mid-sized market, what are the best leadership examples that you can share with us? It is because when you are deploying these systems, it requires a lot of leadership. It actually comes down to old school change management, really, because you try to bring up the modern systems into the company, and naturally there's going to be a resistance to change. And how business leaders are navigating around these challenges based on your observation?
Well, I know, Kevin, you said on this podcast you like to talk about books. So I would say the best book I have ever come across, and this I recommend pretty much to every small to mid-sized business leader I talk to, is the book called Traction by Gino Wickman. I would say that book was transformational for us. We originally read that book back in 2012. And one of the quotes, now I know it typically gets attributed to to Ford, but I think maybe it even goes back to an ancient Chinese proverb. But it's this idea that vision without execution is hallucination. So I realized we were doing a lot of hallucination. And what that typically looked like in practice is every time we'd have a quarterly meeting, annual meeting, we'd have all these great ideas. We'd come back the next quarter or next year and go, great, how did we do? And people are like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So we had a lot of great ideas, but I would say our accountability was weak, our execution was weak. So one of the things that Traction taught me is if we wanted to grow and we wanted to scale, we had to think about it differently. We had to think about it from a systems perspective. And actually, what Traction talks about is what they call the entrepreneurial operating system. So every business has to have an operating system. Now, there are others in addition to Traction. There's, Gazelles by Vern Harnish, any number of ones, but I'd say we settled on Traction, and that helped us get clear about, what Traction calls the 8 values shared by all. The 8 questions shared by all, starting with what's your core values, your core focus, your 10-year target, your 10-year vision, 3-year target, 1-year plan, your quarterly goals down to issues. And so it was incredible just in helping us get the entire organization aligned. And I'd say the other thing that helped a ton is in years ago, Microsoft commissioned a study by IDC that talked about what they called the profit valley for a professional services firm between 25 people to 50 people. Talking to a number of other leaders, I now understand, whether it's IT, legal, you name it, everybody understands this concept of between 25 to 50 people. It's either the profit valley, or some other industries call it the killing fields. It's really hard for professional services firms to grow organically through that barrier. And that's why we see a lot of firms do what I call porpoise, where they'll, go up above 50 and then crash, and up and down. So anyone who is facing that profit valley, killing fields, trying to grow the business, traction is where they should start.
That's a great insight. Truly appreciate it. Well, in your career journey, have you had any role models, any mentors who helped you shape your career perspective over the years?
I would say who I look to as my models are what I would call my string of terrible bosses. So I know a lot of times people look to, someone who was a great example as their role model. Mine was a series of terrible models who I swore I was going to do everything the opposite of them. So,
makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. And thankfully, as we started Archer Point, I was young and energetic enough to set out to try to prove that I could build a business as the opposite example of what I'd seen before. And thankfully, it worked out pretty well. Thankfully, my models were so poor and so opposite of what a good business should be. Now, the sad thing is my prior leaders operated exactly like most of our industry operated. So it wasn't that they were outliers in our industry. They were pretty much the norm. But, so one great example is the bosses I worked for would always say, sell it and we'll figure out how to implement it later. I was like, okay, but if I don't know how we're going to implement it before I sell it, how am I magically going to have this answer after we sell it? And their constant refrain would be, doesn't matter, sell it. I was like, no, this seems like a terrible idea. And it was, because it was one customer service nightmare after another. The other would be I'd say, hey, I don't know how I'm going to staff it. And they'd go, sell it and we'll just get contractors to come in and do it. I'm like, okay, I have never discovered this magical contractor tree where, the best people are just sitting out, hanging out, waiting for me to call them. I said, if I don't know how to staff it internally, the contractors who have time are probably not the contractors I want. But again, that was the constant refrain. Well, then what most businesses in IT did and continue to do is they would constantly shift people from a project they'd already sold to the new project. And it was, again, one constant customer service nightmare after another. So I kind of swore for our business when we started it, we're never going to sell something we don't know how to implement. We're never going to sell something we don't know how to staff with the people we have. And honestly, that served us really well. So,
in your view, how a good leader should be? What are the good qualities or qualities a good leader should have?
Yeah. So I've asked myself this question a lot over the course of the last few years. In fact, in 2019, right before COVID, I decided I wanted to go back for my MBA. And I had to try to explain to my wife why I was doing it, because she goes, so you're not looking to change jobs? Nope. You're not going to get a promotion out of this? Nope. Just I want to accomplish a couple things. One is I want to kind of re-energize my learning. I feel a little stale. I feel like this will be a good way to kind of help me accelerate, what's new, what's different, what's changed. And I said, the other thing that will help me is I want to understand, can I lead in a context where I don't have any positional authority? And as you know, in an MBA program, everything's a group project. Nobody can claim a title as the reason why somebody has to do what they say. And so it was a great opportunity for me to kind of lean into what I think it's John Maxwell has in his 5 levels of leadership. You know, if you're counting on title or positional authority as the way you lead, that's the least effective. And so it gave me a great opportunity to practice leading in a context where people have to want to follow if you're going to be a true leader. You know, you only get to force people to do something maybe one time. And then after that, they will typically nod their head and say they agree with you, but then go do whatever they really think needs to be done. So I would say the key thing for me, I think, about good leadership is lead by example, be clear. And then I think, too, for people who work in a large organizational context like I do now, is don't wait for permission. So what I've learned a lot, which has served me well, is communicate. So I'd say don't, communicate what you're doing, but as a leader, leaders don't sit around waiting for permission to do things. Leaders make a difference. And so obviously, if somebody tells them not to do something, I'm not going to do that. But I will communicate, here's where I'm headed, here's what I'm doing. Tell me to stop if you don't want to see me do this, but I'm going to keep making a difference and make a change. So that's what I would say.
What is your career advice for the next generation professionals coming into the job market nowadays?
I would say, especially for those who think about wanting to start a business, the biggest thing that prevents people from starting anything, whether it's a business, starting a career, changing careers, I think is fear. And so if you recognize that most of the obstacles are internal, well, those I can control. When most people externalize all their obstacles, they think, oh, well, I can't do this until I get, money or investment, or I get time, well, unfortunately, externalized obstacles you don't have a lot of influence over. But if you realize most of the things that prevent you from accomplishing whatever it is you want to do are internal obstacles, well, then the sky's the limit. So I would say, going back to when we started Archer Point, we just found out my wife was pregnant. I had no money. Now, thankfully, I was young enough not to realize everything I should be fearful of. So cash advanced the credit cards, took out the home equity loan, made my capital investment to start the company. And then, hit it hard. So I would say for most people, just don't externalize all your obstacles. Realize, there are plenty of people out there every day with the same resources you have, making life-changing decisions, building businesses, launching new enterprises. So figure out how to do what you want to do to take that first step with what you got.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us in your busy schedule. Thank you for sharing your professional insights with us and your professional wisdom. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been fun.
Yes, pleasure is all mine, and I wish you a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much. Well, to our audience and to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Well, we had another informative episode today with Greg Kaup. And as you know, in each The American Business Podcast episode, we bring you informative content. Because there is something new to learn. And within this view, it's important to have experts on the American Business Podcast. And that's what we do. We bring you experts, we bring you leaders, and we can learn from them and from their experience. If you'd like to be a guest in the American Business Podcast, please send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. We also welcome your feedback.
who you would like to see in the American Business Podcast episodes, you can also send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. If you like to advertise, sponsor the American Business Podcast, please also send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. I am also inviting you to our website, americanpodcast.tv. We update our website weekly basis. You can see coming episodes, scheduled episodes, our guests, as well as subjects we will cover in each American Business Podcast episode. As you know, American Business Podcast is a YouTube Silver Award-winning podcast. We are in top 1% in YouTube business category. We are growing fast, and I truly appreciate your support. If you haven't done so, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. This is the QR code to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe. And if you are feeling more generous, you can also leave your comments in the chat box in YouTube. Truly help us, and we truly appreciate your support. As you know, every month we put together online business networking event called Connectional America Business Alliance networking event, and we stream live on the American Business Podcast. Next one for this month, that's a monthly event. This month we schedule it for December 19th. Hello, welcome to the American Business Podcast. I'm Kevin D, your host. I'm welcoming you episode 105. It's an exciting week for us. We are getting more and more episodes, over 100, and that's very motivation. And today's number is nearly 40% of all businesses are woman-owned in the United States. And as you know, we have a great partnership with missionstatements.com, and we share quote of the day with you. And quote of the day today is, failure is the condiment that gives success its flavor. Well, speaking of women-owned businesses, we have a great guest today. We'll talk about women in business. More, as Business Podcast is an informative business podcast, and we bring you the informative content in each episode. Let's invite our guests to our virtual stage, and let's get the conversation started. Hello, Michelle. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much for being with us in your busy schedule, and happy Friday. How is your week going so far?
So far, so good. I'm anxiously awaiting next week for all the Thanksgiving fun.
Yes, Thanksgiving is great. It's a great time for family, being with the loved ones. So I'm also looking forward to it. Well,
Yeah.
the good news is start.
Yes, almost there.
Sounds great. Well, if that's okay, let's get our conversation started. We have a lot to learn from you, and our also audience and listeners will be also learning about your learning from your professional insights and from your professional wisdom. As a start, would you please introduce yourself and your organization to our listeners and to our viewers?
So my name is Michelle Taylor. I have been a licensed wealth manager for the last decade plus, and in the last 2 years have also launched a separate company that is a passion project of mine called Women in Wealth, and that is all around changing the way women think and feel about money.
This is really exciting, and well, we like to emphasize women in business today. Is our today's number is 40. About 40% of businesses actually owned by women. So that's great. It comes to around 14 million businesses, which is very inspiring when we think about it. So I'm glad we are talking about it today. Would you please tell us about your career journey a little bit? How did you get started? How your career journey has unfolded over the years?
Oh, Kevin, it started in the most interesting way. It's definitely not been a straight line. I went to business school and never thought that I would end up in this space and managing wealth. I am a child of two amazing parents, but both of them, through a divorce, were showing me a lot of different things, but not really talking about money. So I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur like my dad. And as I went through school, I didn't understand that the life I was envisioning could be a product of being a business owner. So I kind of tried a lot of different things. I was actually pre-dental in college for a little while and realized that what I really wanted to do was create something, build a legacy, and decided to go into business school. And in that same respect, also not knowing what I wanted to do. So I have always been a lover of fashion and really stumbled across something that became a business plan. And it was my first opportunity to dip my toes into the entrepreneurial pool. I developed a product and took it to market and was so excited. However, because of some personal things, I am a survivor of childhood leukemia. Actually, I was 17, but because of that, had to go through IVF to have my kiddos, and it unfortunately happened at the same time. So because of all of things going on, I pivoted. I decided also to open a boutique and import goods from Western Europe. My best girlfriend and I moved to Italy. And so got to do some really fun things there. And ultimately, because of timing, that was in 2007 and 8, not the perfect time to be importing anything into the US with a weak dollar. I pivoted again. And in this, I learned with my dad, part of being a business owner and an entrepreneur is learning to lean into a good idea, but also learning when you needed to change direction. So through those two opportunities, I took so many of those lessons and decided that I wanted to help other women, business owners, and people that aspired to be business owners and get them prepared for what that all meant. So I went into wealth management, put those business degrees to good use, and for the last decade have really niched down into using those past experiences of building a business to help other women and work almost exclusively with female founders at this point.
This is really exciting. Well, how about your day-to-day work experience? What are the exciting and challenging parts of your work on daily basis?
The best part of what I do is getting to meet so many different women and being able to recognize a version of myself in exactly the space that they're in. And what I love so much is being able to take other clients' hindsight of things that we've had to learn from and make it applicable to them, but using it as foresight to avoid some of the pitfalls that happen. So I always love when that happens, when I'm able to provide value and hear someone's story and realize that I know the solution that's going to save them a lot of time and money as they build a business or their own personal wealth. And I would say the most challenging part is when I see the solution right in front of someone and can't get them to get there. And sometimes we have to learn on our own, and that's okay. But it definitely is the hardest part of what I do.
How do you see the state of women building wealth nowadays?
Well, I think what you mentioned in the beginning about the speed in which women are starting businesses in the US is incredible. I think, as you know, and being that this is the theme of your podcast, building a business is just such an opportunity to build wealth. And with more women in that space, inevitably, there's more and more women that are controlling their own financial futures, but also the decision making that's happening in the household and just in general, the purchasing power that comes with a dollar being spent in this country now falls almost entirely on women. And I think that that is something that my grandparents and even parents would be proud of, because it's definitely changed. It was only in 1988 that a woman could have a business loan opened in her name without a male cosigner, which is so hard to believe. But I do think that with access to information and with podcasts and so many tools that women are allowed to learn at their own pace and have so many tools at their disposal, it is just the very best time to be a woman building wealth in the United States.
What is your take on AI? How do you see the impact of AI on business nowadays?
So in my industry, this is a hot topic because AI is an absolute game changer. It's a fantastic tool. I encourage everybody to use it as a tool. So you don't want to take what it says literally. AI can make mistakes, but it's a great resource to start to ask the right questions and know what those questions actually are. Now, on the flip side of the coin, especially in my industry, we see a lot of people saying that they want to do their own planning with the help of AI. And in some situations, that's okay. For young people that are just starting out and are on autopilot, it's a wonderful resource when you may not be at the point where you need to bring in help. You'll be paying more in fees than you're investing. With that being said, I think so much of what we do around building a business, building wealth, there is an emotional component to that is never going to be able to be replicated by AI. So I see AI changing the landscape on so many things, on efficiency, on getting quick answers, finding out the tools and resources that you need to go after something. But I also see it as an amazing reminder that humans need humans. And yes, automations make business easier. ChatGPT or something similar makes finding answers quicker and more easy. But at the end of the day, you really cannot succeed at the same pace without the human touch, because that's what all humans need to be fulfilled.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I actually went to a networking event yesterday. That was leadership of AI. And we had a great presenter, Joseph Beauchamp and Beauchamp team. So he made a great presentation. Well, eventually, AI is a tool, he was saying. And then, just don't take it as if it is a god, right? It's basically a tool that's designed to help us. So his suggestion was at the end of the presentation, get your AI as in human, take your AI and use them together. That was his bottom line that he was actually sharing with us. So just to support your point, so it's a great tool, but it's a tool. So we need to use it, utilize it, but remember that is a tool. That was the bottom line of that presentation yesterday.
And you're right, Kevin. And I think that the goal for anybody should look at AI as that tool, and you want to fill your proverbial toolbox with as many options as possible. So you don't want one thing to be your go-to over something else. You want to be able to pull out the tools as you need them and as the situation dictates. And I think that for anybody that's ignoring AI or thinks it's going away, it is certainly not. It is an amazing tool, a time-saving tool, but one that needs to work in partnership with other things.
Yes, absolutely. This is a great conversation. And when it comes to AI, we can literally talk for hours. That's a fascinating conversation. And I agree with you. This here to stay. And we had a guest a couple of months ago, Dave Kerr from Kerr Consulting, and he actually said one thing I can. He said that you better learn AI, take your place. Who knows how to use AI? So something to keep in mind, I think, for all of us as business professionals.
And, I think it's very interesting. Something else that, is a hot topic people have been discussing is so many positions can be replaced by AI, but there are certain things like in the trades and of course being a business owner that will never be replaced. And as people are coming through school and into the workforce, it really does pose a good thought to say, should I be considering something that AI cannot replace? Because I do think that so many of the things that we do are going to go that way.
You actually mentioned earlier about your business experience, and you mentioned how you pivoted and updated and change of the times of or the conditions.
Yeah.
What to do how to survive uncertainty and crisis from business point of view? What businesses should do in the case of crisis or uncertainty? What are the best practices you will say will be?
I would say the number one thing that all of us should be doing is setting ourselves up to be in a position where times of uncertainty for the majority of people are times of opportunity for us. And what I mean by that is if you are a business owner and you're growing and scaling your business, I would be right now, none of us have a crystal ball. I think that in markets like this, there's always areas of opportunity that you need to be prepared for. So as you see the dips in the market and where the media and human nature tell us to be nervous or scared of those times, we all need to learn to condition ourselves to be in a position where when something like that happens, when the stock market is in a recession or is down 10% or 20%, or when something like a COVID happens and people are trying to get out of their business because they didn't plan effectively, we need to be in a position that we have the tools, money, to go after some of those resources and either buy into the market when it's on sale because it will always recover. That's what historical data tells us. Or if you're a business owner, there are going to be people in your industry that are exiting and are going to want to be exiting as quickly as possible. And if you are in a position to buy a piece of the market, you don't want to miss that opportunity because that's when real wealth and growth and scale happen for not only us as investors, but us as business owners.
I like to talk about marketing a little bit. Based on your professional experience, what are the best marketing practices that bring the highest ROI?
So I think everybody is marketing, even if they think that they're not. We are always selling. There's actually a great book called To Sell is Human. And I think that you have to be aware of that. So how you are positioning yourself in today's day and age is extremely important to your business. I love to use social media as a way to show people what I do, the people that I can help, but also give them a little bit of a personal view of who I am and what matters to me. I think that right now, that's where so much of what we do is happening, where the marketing is happening is on social media. So I think any business owner needs to have a presence there, even if it's not necessarily, going to be super helpful to your industry. For example, my dad owned a window and door company. Maybe someone's not going onto social media to follow content of what they're saying. They are going onto social media to search for your company at a rate like we've never seen. So you want to have a presence on social media and all of those platforms because people are looking there. But when it comes to the biggest ROI, I think that unless you are truly dialing into a client and creating a personal connection with what you're doing within that relationship, you're missing the boat. For example, taking the time to understand what your clients' likes and dislikes are, understanding that when they feel seen and heard, you are buying a stickier relationship, and it also fills your cup as well. So I think that gone are the days of marketing in the traditional sense with business cards and billboards. Those things are all great. But I think that the most important way to market with heart is to pour into the clients that you have currently in unique ways that will then turn them into walking billboards for other potential clients or people within their circles. And you're doing it in a really intentional and genuine way.
I like to shift our conversation towards during your career journey. Have you had any role models? Have you had any mentors who help you shape your career path, career perspective over the years?
I have. I've had a few. And the first one I would be remiss to skip over is my dad. So my dad was a business owner. I actually just lost him about 8 weeks ago.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. But, watching him build a business from the ground up and, riding next to him during the summers as he was, out seeing clients and seeing the highs and lows, the goods and bads. He never hid any of that for me and always found a lesson in something he was going through. I carry it with me today now as an adult and, really showing me the things that once you see them firsthand, you'll never forget what it takes with grit and relatability and paying attention to the small details of things. He was such a mentor to me in all of those ways and also showed me that, never forget the reason that we decide to be business owners. And that is to be in control of our own destiny, to be able to have autonomy of time and scheduling where, business owners work more than anybody does, but we are empowered to work it around the things that are most important to us. And he lived that every single day, and I'll always be thankful. And then as an adult, I also have a best friend who's one of my partners. And, he came from very humble beginnings and has built a firm that is truly making an impact on hundreds of people. And it's because of grit and creativity and never giving up and always betting on yourself and always, always putting the client first. And seeing these two people and the commonalities has given me the roadmap to know there is no cheat code, but doing what's right, creating a sticky relationship, and treating your client like you would want to be treated is the way to success. And never let anyone outwork you.
If there is one key career lesson that you learned the hard way, what would?
Oh man, I think the one thing I would say is I find that a lot of business owners are dreamers and visionaries. And I know one of the mistakes that I made was bringing people onto my team for the end result instead of where I was at the moment. And it definitely impacted the bottom line. So, I know that there's old sayings that you hire before you need someone. And I do believe that because if you wait until you're ready, it's too late. However, I also think that it's important to realize that there are steps to take, and bringing somebody on in a part-time capacity or in a position that they can grow and evolve into something as your business does so that they are keeping up with each other is the right way to do it. And I had to learn that the hard way, most definitely.
Is there a book, a show, a movie that help you shape your career perspective?
So there are so many, but if I had to pick one, I would say that The Compound Effect, and I'm sure I'm not the first person that said that on your show, but to me, what I love about that is realizing that anything compounding is going to, make an imprint on what you're trying to do. whether it's daily practices, whether it's what you're saving or investing. I think that it's so important for all of us to remember that small things stacked on top of each other over time create something that is immeasurable. And the only person that's in charge of that is ourselves. So it's how do we do one thing each day that is building and stacking on top of something else to move the needle? Don't have to do it all in one day, but try and do one thing that moves you closer to that direction, and then do that again and again and again.
What is your biggest interest and passion outside of work?
Oh, I mean, spending time with my kids and husband and family, of course. And when we're together, we love to travel. I mentioned I moved to Italy with my best friend in my first jaunt as an entrepreneur, and that had a big impact on me. So I love travel, international travel. I love Italy more than anything. And really just experiences. If I can find a way to do something fun and then make it a core memory, that's my absolute favorite thing to do, even the simplest of things.
If you had a chance to go back history, personally or historically, to what time period would you like to go back and why?
I have two. Can I have two?
Yes, you can.
So one of them is I would love to go back to England during, the time of the kings and queens, and let's say like the 17 and 1800s. It's always really intrigued me, and I don't know why, but I think that the lifestyle and everybody was outside and it was simple, and there was fresh air, and everyone got dressed up to go to dinners and parties and just spend time together. I think would be amazing. I would love to do that. And I also have always been really intrigued by the Roaring 20s. I think it was such a time of abundance and everybody was having fun. And, there was big growth. Everything seemed grand and special. And I would love to be there and just leave before the Great Depression.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Timing is everything after all, so that's great.
That is 100% right. Yes.
I love it. Well, what is your career advice for the next generation coming into the job market? So times are changing. Getting entry-level jobs are getting more difficult than before. That's a fact. Not that it was easy in the past, but it's getting more challenging and competitive nowadays. So from that point of view, I love you to share your career advice with the next generation.
So my career advice would be to choose a career or a path based on the life that you want, not necessarily just based on something that you enjoy. So I will use the example of if you love children, let's say, you don't necessarily have to be a teacher to work with kids. And let's say it's really important that you, as a parent, take your kids to school every day and pick them up from school every day. If you're a teacher, you're not going to be able to do that. So I feel so often we tell people, oh, if this interests you, go to college and do this job. Instead of saying, imagine yourself at 20 or 30 or 40 or 60, and what does life look like? And then if they say, well, I'm traveling a lot, or I'm not working in the summers, or I am able to, work a 10-hour day, 4 days a week, and then on the fifth day, I golf with friends. I think that it's really important to align what your perfect version of life looks like with a career that will help you get there. And anything that you're passionate about can be turned into a career. It's just finding what life looks like first, and then finding the career path that will get you there. So don't just pick a career, pick a life. That would be my advice.
For those who like to continue this conversation with you, what is the best way to be in touch with you, company and services?
So my consulting company and Women in Wealth, you can find me on Instagram at women_in_wealth, and send me a message there. Of course, my website, it's womenandwealth.co. And then I have a podcast of my own called Talk Wealthy to Me, and you can find that on all of the streaming platforms that are out there. And I'm excited to meet new people and new friends from the show.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for being with us in your busy schedule. It was a great conversation, very informative, and thank you for sharing your professional insights and your professional wisdom with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much, and I wish you a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much. Well, to our audience and to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was actually very informative. Well, Women in Business is actually a cause that we love to promote in the podcast, and I'm glad that we had these episodes. That's a great opportunity to promote these cause, Women in Business. And already 40% of US businesses are actually owned by women, which is great. It should be more, right? Why not? So that'd be great. So we love to continue and promote women in business in coming episodes as well. Well, there are more causes that we need to promote in the American Business Podcast. Women in business, nonprofits, as well as organizations that are focusing education. We are also very excited to promote books. If you have any published books, tell us about it. We love to promote it. And recently we started to promote and introduce conferences, trade shows, and other organizations that will be informative for businesses. In that sense, we are very happy that American Business Podcast is growing with educational content, and we are bringing you more experts, more professionals to share professional wisdom and professional insights. If you'd like to be a guest in the American Business Podcast, please send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com or americanbusinesspodcast@aol.com. We have 2 emails, and we are very responsive. Once you send us an email, you'll get a response within 24 hours from me or from one of my team members. So we'll make sure that we'll get connected and we'll get the conversation started. Also, we welcome advertisers, and as you noticed recently, we are getting more sponsors, more advertising to the American Business Podcast. We are very happy for your support and for your organization, company, and services. If you like to promote them in the American Business Podcast, you can send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail. Also invite you to our website, podcast.tv, americanpodcast.us, and you can see our coming schedule. You'll learn about the American Business Podcast, what we are up to, what we are doing. And you can also see our coming subject matter experts in the American Business Podcast. We update it weekly, every Sunday, and you can see coming week on the americanpodcast.tv. As you know, a couple of months ago, we got the YouTube Silver Award. Thank you very much for your support. We truly appreciate it. And if you haven't done so, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. It is easy. It is right on your screen. If you scan this QR code on the screen, it'll take you to our YouTube page. You can subscribe to it. And if you are feeling more generous, you can also share your thoughts with us. Put your comments in the comment box, in the chat box, and you can join the conversation. We truly appreciate it, and we love to hear from you in the American Business Podcast. Great. What else? Let's talk about our sponsors. Spot Corp events. If you are
for the
interested
American
in
Business
podcast, comes from Reddit. Do you know the biggest challenge nowadays for American small businesses? That is visibility. That's why we partner with Reddit for Business. Reddit has more than 400 million weekly visitors. Furthermore, Reddit is reliable. Reddit is the #1 source for real reviews on products, services, and brands. There is a promotion going on. When you spend $500, you'll get $500 in ad credit from Reddit. True story. I am a Reddit user. Anytime I need feedback or review for a product or service, I go to Reddit. I get the real answers, real feedback from real people, from Reddit communities. Scan this QR code and sign up for Reddit advertising for your business. Get the visibility for your company, your products and services. Scan the QR code and sign up today. Thank you for your support. Support for the show comes from Yelp. You know, I've been talking to more than 100 business owners in the American Business Podcast. Do you know the biggest problem for small businesses nowadays? It is visibility. That is why you should sign up and list your business on Yelp for Business. I have the QR code on the screen, and when you scan the QR code, the form will show up on your screen and you can sign up on the registration form. It comes with free trial with no obligation. Make it easy for your customers to find you. Do you know there are more than 70 million customers visiting Yelp website looking for services from businesses just like yours? Restaurants, home services, professional services, and many other businesses are being searched on Yelp on daily basis. That's a great opportunity. If you list your business on Yelp, you'll be findable, searchable, and you'll be visible. When you are visible, when your customers are able to find you, you're in business. You can get opportunities, you can get leads, you can build a healthy and profitable pipeline. Consider Yelp for Business. Scan the QR code, sign up, and start your free trial. It comes with free trial. Very comfortable, no obligation. List your business and start getting the results and enjoy the benefits of Yelp Business. Thank you for your support.